What do you, what are your opinions or your thoughts on this video, on this whole video project idea? What do you think about it?
Well, I think it's great, but I have no idea what I'm going to see. Truthfully, I don't have any idea. I'm imagining what you're going to do, but until I see it, then I'd probably say everybody should have one. I'm Regina Hoffmann, and I'm 90 years old. I'm close enough. And I'm going to tell you about my life from then on.
Up above my head, I hear music in the air. Up above my head, I hear music in the air. Up above my head, I hear music in the air. I really do believe there's a joy somewhere.
And when you look out at the fields, and everything is so large, so vast. If you're a farmer, I think that's what he'd say. It was peaceful. I think that some of the things right now would be that people are grabbing out for too big. Just let it come more slowly, and they'll enjoy it more. I think I'll start with my grandparents. And they came from Trier, Germany. They migrated they got to Wisconsin, and then from there they went to Minnesota, because they knew people that had already done this, so that gave them a little something to work on. As far as my grandparents go, I had never met them because they couldn't travel up here. They did come earlier, but not when I was born. That's why I like to tell this stuff and want my grandkids to know it, because they don't know their grandparents like we do. I mean, I didn't know them. My parents both lived in Minnesota, and of course they moved to North Dakota. They were looking for jobs. And when he finally got some land, then he went back and got my mother. They had been dating. And so she came to North Dakota. I'm sure it was a rough life for them. They lived in a little bitty house, and then in 1918, I think it was, my dad bought the farm where we lived. And that was just another two-room house. I always said if he'd have lived longer, I think a lot of things would have been differently, because he was out to get something. Then the house that I lived, we slept three in a bed. You know how much fun that was. And when I think back now, I don't see how we managed. But we didn't have a lot of clothes. There were no closets, maybe one little closet. And we would, Mom sewed all the clothes, and the men each had a suit. And before we had electricity, I think I had 3 cast irons. And then you'd put them on the stove, and when they were hot, of course you had to test them, because I guess we'd burn a lot, but just think how we had to iron those white shirts for the men. And everybody wore white shirts, you know. When we would wash, after we had the porch, we had a porch all the way in front of the house. It was a nice one too. And they strung a line, and so then it would freeze in the wintertime, and then in the evening, when we'd go to bed, then they'd bring in the clothes rack. That's what you hung your clothes on, and set them in the kitchen. And in the morning, they'd all be dry. We had a big garden. Mom there was everything she planted. And I remember one year, we kids go downstairs and we counted the jars, and she had 400 jars of canned goods. And you canned anything that you could can. And of course, we were in the dry years, so we had to haul the water from the barn. We had a windmill, and then on what they call a stone boat with a barrel on, and then we'd have to take it in the garden and water all that stuff. And I know how disgusting some of us, when I was one of them, why do we have to water all that cabbage? Why not stick it to the beans and peas? Well, Mom said we have to make sauerkraut, and that was the big thing. So now I understand. We always played ball. I think we called it kitten ball, if that's what they called it. And we would do that right on the south side of the house. And those were the years when my dad couldn't walk and he was sitting in a chair. And Mom always pushed him up to the window. And of course, then we would play ball and show off a little bit and have arguments, lots of them. And that was our thing. And then in the evening, you couldn't get the dishes off of the table fast enough. So we would play cards. That was our pastime. We played, that was another thing we do. Every Sunday afternoon, we ended up over in one of the pastures and played some more ball. And we played until there'd get an argument and everybody would go home. And we never stayed at anybody's place to eat. We always had to come home. And we were friends with those people our whole lifetime. In fact, my one classmate, Jerry Talkus, she's going to be 90 next week. And we just friends our whole lifetime.
When will call, an evening is nigh, I hurry to my blue heaven.
We all had work to do, but as soon as I was old enough, we had to milk cows. And we always had milked 10, 12 cows. Then we would take these cows, the boys and myself, and we would herd them out into the sloughs and along the road ditches for about an hour, hour and a half. And then they always said, well, when can we come in? They said, when the one cow lays down. I said, they all lay down. It was just funny. We would take those cows, and we were supposed to be out like an hour and a half to 2 hours. And but how are we going to know to come home? And Mom said, I'll open up the windmill. When that's opened, the fan, then it's time to come home. We always watched when Bill Coffey was his name. He was a mail carrier, and you could set your clock on him. At 9 o'clock, he was at our place. So when we sent him go by, we knew it was 9 o'clock. And he was good. I didn't like him, but he was good. Mom raised some turkeys, and they're a nuisance. And then in the fall of the year, they wouldn't go back in the barn. They'd sit on the trees. Well, when a turkey sits on the trees, with his breast down, they got crooked breast. Well, then when you sold them, they took such a deduction on them. So then she would make us, all us kids, herd those dumb things into the barn. There was a barn for them. Nobody liked that. It was cold, you know. Everybody had a job. We always had a job. I mean, I hear these kids talk, no, I never have nothing to do. I said, we just had a job. And you better believe it, with that many kids around, we had to do it. If we didn't, the other ones were down on us. I can't believe that we did all that. And, but we made fun of a lot of things, made it into fun. That's the extent of that part of my life. What's the next one? Let's see, what should I do next?